let me just get the small print out of the way first. The fine detail. It's not the fine detail. It's actually the hub of the story, really. And that is that on Friday, there was a jet chartered to go from Biggin Hill to Frankfurt, which then got cancelled. Now, again, we're putting two and two together here. However, there was a flight rescheduled for the following day, which is obviously Saturday today, which is scheduled from Frankfurt to Biggin Hill. Now, these are chartered flights. These normally would be of no interest whatsoever. So I take it there's an assumption that basically Filip Kostić is on the flight coming over. Now, I wanted to get that detail out there early because the whole pursuit of the player I'm finding slightly confusing. Let's leave Areola to one side from it. Let's not class Areola as a signing, if you don't mind, because he was here last season. So let's just go with Agerd, let's go with Flynn Downs, and let's go with Scamacca. Those three players, we knew about two of them long before they signed, right? Darmesh broke both stories. I say broke both stories. The other one, Flynn Downs, nobody knew. Nobody knew about it. He came in basically pretty much on the day before the medical. We found out there was no build-up in the press. What does that tell you? Well, it tells you 2 out of 3 signings get leaks, and there's quite a long build-up. I mentioned it before last season, particularly with Zuma as well. And I just wonder if in this instance, sometimes there is smoke with fire. And I think Kostić, I think we've been quite loud about it. I think probably the agents have been quite loud about it, particularly the agents, actually. I should probably rephrase it. I don't think West Ham have been particularly loud about it. I think the agents have. Because apparently he's being pimped around left, right and centre, is old Kostić here. Apparently they're trying to lure Chelsea in and hopefully get some interest from them. I do find that quite an odd one to try and gather some interest with, because they've got... They're overrun with wide players, aren't they? I was surprised they signed Sterling. I remember playing Chelsea last season, and they kept on bringing wide player after wide player after wide player on. They've got loads of them. They've just signed another one. I just can't see they'd be interested in another one. So apparently the story goes that the agent's trying to drum up quite a lot of interest. Now, the reason I find this interesting is because we all know about this David Moyes MOT. Now, David Moyes has never said it. However, particularly when he did the podcast with Jake Humphrey, he alluded to some of the criteria that he wants from players. Some of those characteristics. Forget about how they kick a football or how they head a football, their technique. Forget that stuff. We're talking about the player's character and the player's personality. Now, David Moyes is not going to be crass enough to call it my MOT or label it or anything like that. That's what we've called it, the David Moyes MOT. I get it. I understand why you'd have one. Nobody wants to bring the wrong characters into their football club. I mean, there's a football club at the moment who clearly have brought the wrong player in, and he's caused an awful lot of legal trouble at the moment, and you spend a lot of money. You want to do your background checks, your due diligence. That makes absolute sense. So, because we're not being told specifically what the MOT is, I think it's about desire, I think it's about commitment, I think it's about being able to blend and mix with the group of players. But I'd imagine the one thing you really want, maybe not above and beyond anything else, but one thing you really want is that a player wants to play for you. The player really wants to join your club. Step forward and take a bow, Mr. Flynn Downs. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that, does it? Scamacca, I thought, played an absolute blinder when he spoke about his comments about even the all right, me old China thing at the start of the video about him wanting to be at West Ham, wanting to come to the Premier League. I thought that was really good. And then when you hear those sort of comments, then you hear a day or two later that actually PSG made a late offer for him, and he turned around and he said, "No, look, I've already sort of agreed to go here. My heart's here. I've made up my mind, and I'm going to stick with it." That helps. That's all part of being, a good, decisive character, and we like that. But this MOT test is one of the reasons I don't know why we carried on with the pursuit of Jesse Lingard when it was quite clear he didn't want to be here. Off the top of my head, I can only really think of one player at West Ham historically who didn't want to come, and actually it turned out, and he was really, really good anyway, and that was Thomas Repka. Thomas Repka didn't want to leave Fiorentina. Glenn Roeder, I think, bid $5 million for him. I think he spent $5 million twice. Maybe Don Hutchison and Thomas Repka. I might have that wrong. I think it's right. Thomas Repka was settled in Italy, didn't want to come. Eventually we persuaded him, and we gave Fiorentina so much money that they basically kicked him out the door. However, he was of such sound character, such good character, that he just got on with it when he came over here, and he was completely committed, and he'll sort of go down as one of our sort of cult heroes, won't he, Thomas Repka? However, I think by and large, if you start trying to make people do things that they don't want to do, it's a bad look. It's not a clever idea. Man United have got it at the moment, haven't they, with Frankie de Jong. Frankie de Jong, I mean, he unequivocally stated that he's happy in Barcelona. He's just bought a new house, and he's just got his children into school. And basically, obviously, they've grown up in Holland. His young children, they've just started to grasp the language. They've learnt Catalan or Hollish. And you just think, well, he's told you. Why are you continuing to pursue this? When someone starts talking about my home and my family, why push it? Why push it? He doesn't want to go to Manchester. I'd find it quite an odd transfer. Anyway, so we find ourselves in this situation where it gets back to Kostić now. And I like him, and I think he's a good player, and I think he'd be very good for West Ham. However, there's a little part of the story that's popping up at the moment, which is that we are going to have to persuade him that he doesn't want to play Champions League football. We're going to have to persuade him that he wants to join West Ham. Now, I guess, don't get me wrong, there's an element of persuasion any time you want to sign a player. I get that. You want to explain to a player and sell your club to him. This is why you should sell. This is why you should sign for me. The XYZ is the reasons why you should sign for West Ham United rather than any other club. Now, that's fine and that works if a player's already decided that he wants to leave. But if a player's decided he wants to stay put, you haven't only got to convince him that your club is better than the other clubs, you've got to convince him he doesn't want to be at that club. And he's settled at Frankfurt, as far as I understand. Now, don't get me wrong, I think he's run his contract down, he'll probably leave next year. But he's probably had that in his mind. He wants to play Champions League football. So I think this is a hard sell. And this is where I'm not sure it fits in with the David Moyes MOT. Now, this is not to say that the player has bad character or doesn't have the determination, the application and the endeavour and all the things that David Moyes wants to see in a personality. But I just think from the word go, you're asking somebody to come over who perhaps doesn't want to. And I just don't think that's a great starting position. And particularly when we then turn around and say, well, hold on, what we'll do is we'll entice him over. He doesn't want to go over for football reasons. Doesn't particularly want to have any affinity with coming over and living in this country. Okay, we'll just offer him more money. So we'll double your money. And then you get that sort of mercenary aspect to it. Yes, I know. A lot of footballers are mercenary in that way, and some are not. But you just get the impression that maybe, just maybe, this might not be the smartest thing to do. As I say, I want to separate that from the player totally, because I think as a player it makes sense, particularly when you put that against the rumour that Masuaku is going to sign for Besiktas. I think it's on loan. I think it might be on loan. Now, you look at the positions that Arthur Masuaku covers. How often does he actually play at left wing? Very, very rarely. If Cresswell can't play at left wing, he'll play Johnson there. No, Masuaku plays at left wing back, or David Moyes chucks him in to play at left wing. Which you'd probably imagine that's exactly what he'd have in mind for Kostić. So actually, I think what you're seeing there is a direct replacement. Masuaku for Kostić. That makes sense in terms of the player. I would certainly feel more comfortable having Kostić there rather than Masuaku. Not that Masuaku hasn't been a really good servant for the club. He really has. Not been a moment's bother. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You know what I'm alluding to on that one. But he never complains, Masuaku. He never, ever complains. It doesn't matter whether he's substitute, whether he's not used, staying on the bench, not even in the first team squad. Never complains. Just gets on with it, trains every day. And I think there's a really skillful player in there. You look at his highlight reel, it's quite impressive. Unfortunately, it's just the end product never quite happens. He sort of falls between the margins. Maybe he needs a new challenge. Maybe he goes to a new club and he really thrives. I'm now thinking he didn't come from Turkey. Maybe he came from Greece. Did he come from Olympiacos or something like that? Should know. Something. I don't know why I hit my nose in. Something like that. Anyway, but I do think there's a direct replacement there. But I also do think that what David Moyes has also shown, particularly with the fact that he just switched from Breuer to Scamacca, is that he will switch targets if it doesn't work out. So he's not going to let this drag on and on and on. because this is what we're hearing. The agent is trying to invite other clubs to bid for Kostić. And I just think we don't want to get involved in that. What we don't want to be used as a make weight to try and flush out other offers from other teams. And I'm quite sure, I think they're learning all the time. I think Moyes and Newman are learning all the time. In this new dynamic that they have, I don't even think Moyes had this at Everton, to be perfectly honest with you, because I think Bill Kenwright, who of course was the chairman and owner at the time, did a lot of this stuff. I think this is the first time probably in his career that David Moyes had a team answerable to him. Certainly didn't happen at Man United. I don't think it happened at Sociedad. Not sure he signed a player at Sociedad. Don't know. Couldn't tell you. But they're learning all the time, and I think the Jesse Lingard thing, there were two things. The Jesse Lingard thing and the Rangers game were two big stings, basically, that hit them quite hard and made them more decisive. So I don't think this will drag on and on and on. And I do understand why David Moyes wants to persevere, but I think if you are going down the road of convincing a player that doesn't want to come, that he does, I just think you then, what's the point? Because all those attributes that you think you're going to get, like the determination and all of those, the application, the desire, and all those character traits that you want and David Moyes would see in his Moyesy MOT, you're possibly not going to get that if somebody doesn't want to be there and they'd rather be at home. And maybe, to be fair, he's been in Germany quite a while, probably sees Germany as home, I don't know. I think it's a funny one. I'm not going to be disappointed if we sign him. Far from it. I think he'd be a very, very good player. I really do. And maybe he's got a touch of the Thomas Repkas about him. Maybe he just signs and then he becomes one of the best. But I do think he's top quality, but I keep going back to asking myself the same question throughout this transfer window. And by the way, thank you, Steve, for all your comments and all your predictions. Those of you that gave predictions, really interested to read them, actually. Particularly, I know I shouldn't really, but particularly the relegation ones I found quite interesting as well. However, I come back to this one question I keep asking myself about transfers, about signings that West Ham might make, and that is this one. Will it improve us as a team? Will we be better next season than last season? Does Kostić make us better? Yes. Does Scamacca make us better? Yes. Does Aguerd make us better? Yes, because there were square pegs and round holes. Clearly, he can't, he can't show that at the moment because he's injured. However, we definitely missed Ogbonna being out. Another left-sided defender definitely helped us. Does Flynn Downs make us better than last season? Well, I don't think he makes the first team better. However, if David Moyes is going to be more inclined to use him than he was inclined to use Alex Krell, then yes. And I think if you can keep answering yes, and can you be better than last season, and will Kostić do that, then it becomes a good signing to do. I'm aware that there's a counter-argument there, but every time I've said, does it make us better, will we be better next season? Some people say no, because the weaknesses are still there, as in, and one of the perceived weaknesses is Cresswell at left-back. I don't think that means we don't improve next season. I think that just means the problem is still there. I think it just means we haven't improved that particular area, but we've improved other areas of the pitch. I'm a little bit concerned that there's not an awful lot of left-back talk. I know there's sort of rumours and lots of transfer rumours, and to be fair, I could read you 10 now from I don't like to run football up now and read you 10, but there's not like the meat behind them that you've got with this Kostić rumour or that you had with Scamacca. It had a feel like something was going to happen. Even with a Gerd, you hear the jets being chartered and players coming over for their medicals and all of this sort of stuff. I don't know. I'm a little bit worried that there's no left-back talk yet. I'd like a little bit of that. However, this will be a really, really good signing. We'll know a lot more. I was going to say, I'm recording this on Friday night. I was going to say tomorrow, but it's tomorrow. We'll know a lot more Saturday. Obviously, West Ham have got a game. David Moyes is going to take his eye off the ball. Well, he has to, because he's got to go and literally watch the ball being kicked around. But in terms of transfers, but that's what Rob Newman's for, right? Rob Newman can help push this deal through, and it did remind me of something that Gerd mentioned in his interview that he'd met David Moyes a couple of times. Scamacca mentioned that he'd spoken to the manager, but it was a phone call or a Zoom call or something like that. So it just goes to show David Moyes doesn't necessarily have to meet them. Mind you, let's be perfectly honest, Moysie got two really good opportunities to meet Kostić last season, I guess, so probably knows all about him.